everyone. So today's video, I just wanted to vent, I guess. I wanted to talk about some reactions that I've seen over time within the girl community. I just have been noticing some trends over a handful of channels. I just wanted to discuss our own responsibility. I'm not wearing a necklace. What do I hold on to? Our own honesty, our own responsibilities, our concepts of feedback, and our perception of accountability. I understand there's a lot of different reaction channels. There's like entertainment and funnier compilation videos, traditional reaction videos, or people who focus on like retro reactions, or videos where people kind of summarize what's happened. I know there's like in-depth commentary videos and sometimes even full-length films. And to be honest, there's so many reaction channels. I feel like I can even only name a handful, and I don't even watch that many, to be honest, because like how many different takes or reactions to these women can you really give? But I just wanted to preface this discussion by saying like it's okay if we don't like the same people. I just wanted to vent about some things I've been noticing and see, am I alone in this, or am I the only one who's feeling this way? As I've said before as well, multiple things can be true. Just because we watch certain channels doesn't mean that we co-sign or agree with every little thing that they've said currently or have said in the past, or that we even know about everything that's went down. Also true, there can be problematic behavior that comes from reaction channels that we can point out without necessarily defending the girls in their entirety. Like, it doesn't mean we're suddenly Chantal or Amber stans. And I'd like to think that people are able to point out their feelings or criticisms about reaction channels without taking things too far, without going real life, like doxing, threats, or bringing up irrelevant and illogical points. Like sticking to the talking points of what a lot of these people are saying. And I don't feel like pointing the finger at someone and yelling that they're a hypocrite or that the behaviors are hypocritical is going to get them to change, which is why I am such a big proponent of comprehensive feedback. However, I can see some inconsistencies and lack in logic in some reaction channels. As a viewer, it can be frustrating. For me, it's annoying to hear someone talk about how Amber treats her community so poorly when they themselves chastise and criticize their own chat and audience for not providing timestamps and receipts properly or in time. I find it really silly when I hear someone talk about how Chantal is really immature, but then they turn around and brag about things that they did as a teen. I hope you get the idea, and I just want to say as well, I'm not trying to get into this whole like who can and can't react to whatever. I definitely think there's something to be said about like if you have personally experienced something and you find a similarity to what you're watching, you can provide insightful commentary, but I don't like to think that like, oh, you have to be a certain weight or look a certain way or have done a certain thing in order to comment on something. Like, that's the whole point. Anyone can comment on anything we want. Like, there shouldn't be a litmus for who can say what, right? But I find it frustrating when sometimes these behaviors get called out and it's just excused as, well, I'm just providing commentary. I'm just here to hold them accountable. I'm just reacting and observing to what you put out on the internet. It's just critique. All right, so let's talk about that. I feel that some reaction channels normalize negative cyclical behavior of demanding that things be put online to then discuss it and act as if they're completely innocent in this engagement and abstain from any responsibility or skirt inappropriate lines because they claim they're just providing commentary and just observing what's online. I've said before, and I think reaction channels that insert themselves into these women's lives by like flirting with them, DMing them, even like going into their videos and leaving weird comments might normalize that for their community. And then go and react to the content that follows it is like weird to me. The boundary to me gets really blurred, but defend it by saying, well, you mentioned this person on the internet, so of course we're going to talk about it and react to it. You can't get mad if we talk about something that you have alluded to, or you should expect this type of behavior because of who you are. And yes, let's keep it real. Sometimes these women do purposefully and intentionally dangle things in order to stir up some attention or drama, sure. But I don't think it's every time, and I think the concept of privacy is really being blurred because we keep normalizing this excuse and say, well, you should expect this, so don't talk about anything. Like, am I alone in wondering like, how is that okay? I totally understand the overarching concept of if you don't want someone to talk about something or comment on it, then don't display it. But sometimes the commentary on things that are being demanded from creators or things that aren't really that big of a deal is really pointless or really misses the mark for me. Half the time I feel like some of these reaction channels are finding like the tiniest bit of something to comment on and making it a way bigger deal than it is. Or they really rely on the girls to be bombarded with unrealistic demands, followed up by some reaction channel saying, well, we need to hold them accountable, and they're online public figures. But in commenting and holding them accountable, they're not actually providing any real critique or touching on accountability with good interest in mind. And I really feel like some folks are normalizing pulling the girls' teeth and poking and prodding at them for content instead of it coming out organically. Like, just because you watch someone who you perceive and know to be sometimes problematic, doesn't mean that they owe you explanations about their life, or that their privacy is out the window, or that they owe you every detail of something that you might be curious about that they have just barely alluded to. Like, if you recognize them to be problematic and manipulative creators, then be cognizant of that so that you don't let yourself be a victim to it. And just because someone brought something up online doesn't mean that it is logical to completely run wild with it and hound the creator about it. And again, I'm not saying that the girls are all like good people and never do anything problematic or manipulative, but I do feel like sometimes they're kind of damned if they do and damned if they don't. And I feel like some hot topics are really being exacerbated by the reaction channel's commentary to the point where, like, I don't get what the goal is. Do you want them to not say anything, but at the same time you want them to be a complete open book with no privacy? But then you get annoyed at everything they do say. Holding these standards just confuses me even more when these specific reaction channels who behave in this way act like they're providing really insightful and caring commentary and just like innocently reacting to what's put out there. I think some of these reaction channels are part of this loop where they or their community escalates things for content for them to react to. I've even recently seen some people in their chats say things that are like, wow, is that not crossing a line for you? And they don't discourage it. I also just would hope that these particular reaction channels are realistic in understanding that just because you see something online and you comment on it doesn't mean that your opinion of that is like the truth. It doesn't mean your opinion is always intelligent or factual. But because some of them have such a large following and aren't clear about their directions or their boundaries, and they normalize making things a bigger deal than they are, this behavior of like prodding and demanding things is like bolstered and encouraged. So for example, let's take Chantal being in Montreal. Pete's commented that she was with friends in Montreal. Of course, we can all deduce who this friend was. Chantal then posted a picture on her community tab saying she was out with friends. I saw comments, some even from reaction channels themselves, demanding photos to prove who she was with. Look, I agree Chantal lies. That's kind of the golden rule, right? I've made videos myself about her manipulation, her problematic behaviors. I understand completely that she's not reliable. That's what's so frustrating but entertaining about her. I completely agree that she is not reliable. But in what world is it okay to demand someone send the internet photos of proof of who they're with and where they're at? For what? For a reaction channel to hold her accountable or to observe and comment on her lies? Like, we all know she lies. I'm sorry, that's creepy behavior. And I'm not defending the girls or saying that they are good people or that they haven't genuinely manipulated their audience at times, but let's not pretend it's normal in any capacity to demand someone send proof of who they're with, to demand that they step on a scale, or to demand that they share information that they might genuinely not be ready to share. Trisha Paytas, everyone knows, is another problematic YouTuber, recently made a video talking about how this guy, she was driving around, this guy came up and was like I think he was tapping on her window or telling her to come outside or roll down her window. And her comment section was full of people saying she deserves it for driving a recognizable car. She deserves it for being a toxic person. She deserves to feel scared. This is what she wants because she's on the internet and she likes attention. She should expect this because she's on the internet. She shouldn't be angry that this is happening because she's a public figure. If you want to talk about problematic and toxic things that a YouTuber such as Trisha Paytas has done, I feel like it makes sense to comment on that. But I don't understand this leap in logic from she's a public figure, she likes attention, and also I think she's a person, so therefore I can't believe that she doesn't want some random dude tapping on her window and telling her to get out of her car. Just because someone is a celebrity doesn't make that okay, and just because someone's a public figure online doesn't make it okay. Petty Peach is another YouTuber who makes a point that she will not talk about certain things regarding Alexandra Rodriguez because Alexandra Rodriguez has not spoken about it herself publicly. And I'm not saying that everyone should hold that same standard, but I do think, just using that as an example, if you're going to discuss things that a creator hasn't said themselves, I would hope that some reaction channels are cognizant of that and acknowledge the fact that that information was found by other means, and then play off this like swarm of people trying to pull this information out as just innocently observing what happens to be online. It's online because some of y'all encourage your community to coax it out of these people, or you certainly don't discourage it. I myself previously engaged in this behavior because a very manipulative YouTuber had it in many people's heads that they did no wrong and that we owed them research. But what I'm getting at is waving the flag of, oh, I'm just reacting to what's out there. It doesn't really fly when some of y'all and your audience play such a huge part in things escalating or getting put out there. People on the internet, no matter how toxic you perceive them to be, don't owe you the things you think it's okay to demand just because reaction channels have normalized it. Some reaction channels. I really appreciate it when reaction channels are not confusing in their stance. I feel like I know where that's Lindsay with an A, DC Media Girl, Shakara Transformations, Yaba, Alex is Shook. Like, I feel like I know generally where they stand. I don't ever feel confused about their stance on random certain topics. And I appreciate reaction channels that are not afraid to address things. I feel like I've heard some of them say in the past, like, hey, don't run and do XYZ, or I do not condone of this. Where their line is as far as what they consider to be entertainment, commentary, and critique, I really appreciate when a channel is clear about what type of behavior they do or don't approve of, such as going and harassing channels, especially because generally we know that we're gonna get something entertaining out of these channels that a lot of us watch and react to without the poking and prodding. Like, we don't need to coax something interesting out of them. That's why we've been watching them for years. However, I feel like some reaction channels and their communities say that anything and everything the reaction channel says is okay because they consider it to be constructive criticism. And their goal is to provide constructive criticism because they care about the health or well-being or the community. But saying what is essentially insults over and over again isn't providing constructive criticism. Laughing and making disrespectful comments isn't providing critique. I think people really need to differentiate and learn what criticism is, whether it's constructive in its intent and impact compared to what's just laughing at someone and being mean. And I'm not talking about what we perceive to be nice or mean channels. I'm talking about being honest with what you perceive your content and your community to be. The content of what they're saying, their words, their meaning. I would hope as adults, if you're just wanting to talk shit, you could just own up to it and be like, I'm just here to talk shit. Feedback is meant to be for development or for motivation. It discusses the actions of what someone did, the impacts that it had on themselves or others, and what to do going forward. A big component of it is like actionable advice. I've said in the past about Amber, she needs to not speak in such an uptick because then it doesn't sound like you're sure of what you're saying. That's specific to her, but it could also apply to other people. However, I have heard some reaction channels say that Chantal is not human, she's a specimen, implying that Pete is a predator to children and he needs to be kept underground, saying that she's filthy, imagine her filthy bathwater, saying that Amber would be straight up like a stampede, using quite literal dehumanizing language to describe these people, saying that they're boring without providing any commentary. Saying erase yourself, restart your life, saying that some of these people are a disgrace to women, disgrace to men. That's just a handful of stuff. Some of these reaction channels will literally say those things, but turn around and say they are just providing commentary to hold people accountable. And in fact, other reaction channels are bullies. I just wish that those reaction channels would own up to it and not pretend like they're giving commentary because they care. Full disclosure, there was a point in time where I used to really enjoy watching a certain reaction channel who was really, really mean to the point where they, I think, voluntarily took themselves off YouTube. So I get how easy it is to get swept up in talking about these women. Like, I get frustrated with them. But what frustrates and confuses me is this facade of what I do is fine because it's commentary, because I care. And then simultaneously not allowing any critique of that commentary or their own channel. I've seen some reaction channels block people for disagreeing with them, but will turn around and say that the people they're reacting to have a hug box because they block people who disagree with them. I guess it's just like some level of honesty that I'm after. Like, let's not pretend that some of these reaction channels are the be all end all. Sometimes some reaction channels' opinions and interpretations are wrong. Sometimes it does go over their head. Sometimes they do nitpick for no reason. And if the people that they're reacting to defend themselves, then it becomes an even bigger circus. When I hear people say like, oh, they need to toughen up, but like they can't handle any dissenting opinion themselves, it just is very off-putting for me. Like, again, I don't understand what the goal is. Do you want the people that you're reacting to just sit and take everything that you say? Again, not saying the people that a lot of folks are reacting to are overall good people, but sometimes they might clarify something or respond to a comment that a reaction channel said. It doesn't mean that they can't handle YouTube or are triggered or are raging. But I've come to realize that the reaction channels that I really do enjoy are able to like agree to disagree, or they can engage in conflict resolution. They can admit when they're wrong. They can change. They understand that like life is fluid and things change. And sometimes I really am kind of taken aback whenever I hear some things that some of these reaction channels say. I'm like, how ridiculous of a statement is it that you're making that I'm sitting here like I'm not defending Chantal and I don't like her particularly or approve of the things that she's doing or saying. And you end up sitting here feeling like you're defending Chantal because of the ridiculous things that some of these people are saying. And sometimes it's like if any of the people that they're reacting to makes like an apology about something, it's like it's never good enough, but there's video after video after video about how not good enough it is. And then their audience will run back over to these people's channels and be like, hey, it wasn't good enough. Like, what do you want? Do you want their head on a platter? Like, what do you want from them? Do you want them to delete their channel? Do you want them to never say anything until you want them to say anything? It's so confusing to hear some of these channels say that they care and that they're after accountability and they don't like the manipulation and it's all about the wellness and well-beings and victims, but then all they do is split hairs and not provide any meaningful developmental actionable feedback. I find it really obvious and I appreciate it when a channel is clear about their intent, their direction, their expectation, compared to others where like everything's a drama, nothing's lighthearted or ever good enough. Like when some of these channels say, oh, we need to hold them accountable for their past transgressions and for their manipulation, like what does that look like for you? What does holding someone accountable look like for you? Because I feel like sometimes when they try to move on and potentially grow from it, like it's never let go. Hi, it is Editing Tiffany here, so I'm sorry if I look disheveled. In between filming and editing, there has been some developments and new things that have come out that I just wanted to touch on and just make sure that I was very clear in a lot of the things that I said. The thing that's frustrated me even more, and again, I do apologize if my frustration is coming out in my tone. In between filming and editing, I've just seen even more channels highlight and certainly not discourage people reaching out to directly talk to or interact with Chantal or Natter. As we know, Chantal is not a reliable person and Natter is definitely not a trustworthy person either. But we've known by now, regardless of whatever status Chantal is saying their relationship is, we know that Natter talks to other women. There's been receipts of this for a really long time now, even Chantal confirming this in the past. This didn't just come up in the past week, and it's not new or news. We know that he answers calls and messages from random people. I distinctly remember DC Media Girl speaking about this in a reaction video where she was like, why are you answering calls or messages from random people? I think it's really irresponsible for some reaction channels to not discourage their audience members doing this by actively seeking out and sharing or highlighting screenshots or receipts of people interacting with Natter, and then playing it off as like, well, it's online, so of course we're gonna look at it. I think when those channels do this, they're not being clear about where they draw the line with directly interacting with the people they watch. I think the way that some channels have been highlighting and reporting on women who have been speaking to Natter, who we all know has an abusive history, bolsters that behavior, let alone seeking it out and literally being like, hey, send this stuff to me. And now it's really sad and really unfortunate someone has come out with an essay allegation. I don't feel that some of these channels with these large followings can absolve themselves of the responsibility of any steps that they may have taken to potentially contribute to this behavior of interacting with these people. I've seen some people say that Chantal has had a hand in this for giving him a platform and for telling people that he's decent despite his abusive history. But the other side of that coin is some reaction channels expediting and basically assisting Natter sort through women that he can then manipulate and get in touch with by highlighting their conversations with him. Yes, we can say that there's so many things that have contributed to this, like Chantal revealing his information from the get-go. But again, I don't think that we should say that certain reaction channels haven't contributed at all to this behavior. Yes, ultimately everyone is responsible for their own actions, but I don't think some people are just innocently reacting to what's out there when they are seeking it out, laughing about it, highlighting it, and not discouraging people interacting with him. My main frustration in the past week, especially with some reaction channels, is that they're trying to call out red flags, as exemplified by Chantal and company, means nothing when you encourage that same community to give you receipts of them running past these red flags with the same people that you're talking about. I've heard a few reaction channels and their communities ever since this essay allegation came out, talking about like, oh, this is too much, I'm so frustrated, this is too far, like how could this happen? Why would you meet him in person? We need to be careful about what we say. But they had no problem with any of this interaction whenever it was Facebook Messenger screenshot. And they had no problem seeking out and wanting receipts or even talking about things that literally had no proof or wanting even more proof of people talking to him, even laughing in hopes that it would cause Chantal to rage. But now it's gone too real life and now it's too far. And now you want to say don't cross lines when you previously had no issues with lines being blurred and potentially being crossed when you considered it entertaining for your channel and community. I'm sorry I sound so frustrated, just some of these like sudden realizations that these channels are having without any concept of any bit of a hand that they might have played in this. Like, are people actually confused about why folks are reaching out to them when reaction channels make a big show about any interaction that they can get of people reaching out to him? I think it's perfectly fine to expect that some reaction channels and their communities need to do better and have higher standards. And if they're honest with themselves and don't think that they need to do better, then they shouldn't act like they are. And realize that they are also not above criticism. Also, I just wanted to reiterate, I know I am just talking kind of like in general, and I might be being a bit vague and I do apologize about that, but if and when I wanted to make a video specifically about a particular person, then I will do that when it happens, or again, if it happens at all. It's like, just be honest about what you're doing and what you expect from yourself and your community, and make sure that that is in line with the expectations that you're putting onto others as well. So you don't want your community to be the ones who, as trolls, running back and forth, trying to instigate crap or doing things that you yourself are not aligned with. The hyper honesty, authenticity, and awareness that some of these channels expect from the people they react to, I don't know if they necessarily have those same standards for themselves. I feel like when some channels aren't honest with themselves and their content and their community, that's when they start to come across to some people like potentially illogical and hypocritical. Absolutely, people can comment on anything they want. It doesn't have to fit what I like or what any other person likes. That's why we all like the things that we like, and it's okay to dislike. But I guess my overall point is, I feel that some people's behavior within the community is sometimes questionable or problematic. And just because we love to be simultaneously entertained and frustrated by the people that we watch, doesn't mean that that problematic behavior from the reaction channels is okay, or their communities. Whether you find the girls like entertaining in their merry-go-round or frustrating, but you just can't look away from the train wreck, they definitely don't need help being more of that. As usual, I would love to know your thoughts. Do you also value clarity regarding boundaries with certain channels that you watch? Do you appreciate the honesty of like, hey, I'm just keeping it real, I'm just here to talk shit, that's it? Or do you notice when there's like a disconnect and that honesty isn't there? I don't know. Do you notice that disconnect as well? Let me know down below. Thank you so much for watching. I apologize that this was more of like a rant But thank you for listening to me vent. Wherever you are in the world, I hope you're having a beautiful day. Bye.